Hello, and welcome back to Tree of Statism, Good and Evil. Today we want to talk to you about the subject of objective-oriented armies. But first, we need to start with a disclaimer. Not all armies are built well. Not all armies are prepared well. Also, sometimes the leadership is the incorrect leadership. That is to say, sometimes the leadership is incompetent or political leadership. Someone who is not fit to lead a well-prepared army. Also, sometimes new concepts are added and are not added correctly. That is to say, we are now trying a new concept with the army. However, this has never been done before, and now we make mistakes that have never been made before. Wars have costs. Property is damaged and destroyed. Wages have to be paid. This depletes the treasury of the state. Soldiers die, and the problem with that is that fighting age men are working age men. Any soldier you lose today is a worker you don't have tomorrow. It is also a father you don't have tomorrow. That is to say, it will create a broken family. This is why wars are not fought for fun. Wars are the most violent way for a state to achieve objectives, to gain things that it wants. There are therefore many wars for resources. For example, farmland, water, in order to loot, that is, to take something another civilization has made. Sometimes it's for mines, with iron, coal, or maybe gold. In our modern age, there are wars for gas, oil, uranium, and other energy sources. There have always been wars for humans, because humans are the number one resource of any human civilization. There have also been wars to trade routes and the ocean. That is to say that anything you can't steal, you can trade, and you do want to be connected to other trade routes. In some cases, nations have fought for strategic depth and defense, that is, to reach some kind of geographic border that will help you defend in future wars. You could give up this land except for the fact that if this land is used as a staging point, this will endanger the heartland. Finally, there's also the issue of holy wars. However, holy wars, while they may seem silly to you, do serve a ideological point, a philosophical point maybe. However, none of these reasons are people fighting for fun. For the sake of this video, we want to differentiate between attack and defense. Attack and defense in this case is not related to any kind of morality. It is related to how a battle starts. The battle usually starts with the defending side holding the ground and the attacking side wanting to gain the ground. This does not mean that the defending party has rights over the land, because you have things like counterattacks. Think of the war in Ukraine. Russia took a bunch of land in southern Ukraine. Now there is an ongoing counter-offensive. The Russians are defending land they hold, and the Ukrainians are attacking lands they do not hold. In both these cases, in attack and defense, there are different fighting styles. They are not the same for many reasons. However, regardless of whether you are right or wrong, moral or immoral, fighting or defending, you are fighting for the same things. Just because someone wants to take this from you does not mean you want to give it up. Usually the things worth taking from you are valuable to you and to your enemy for the same reasons. Wealth is also directly related to lifestyle and life expectancy. Sometimes you would prefer to give up a few soldiers now in order to not shorten your life expectancy later. That is to say, money lost now, wealth lost now, oil lost now, gold lost now, is going to be directly related to how long and how well your people live in the next 50 years and the next 100 years. This makes it perfectly logical to fight for these resources, both as attacker and as defender. As promised before, we're going to have a bunch of videos in which we have video games in order to display strategic concepts. In this case, we're going to be looking at Total War games. Here we see on the map a bunch of cities with very small armies. We see here 2, we see here 3, we see here 4 units. There is no mass concentration of armies because we're not going to be fighting anywhere here. These are more like peacekeeping troops. And as such, we do not have that many armies, that many troops in any of these cities. This is not the front line. Here we have our first defensive army. The defensive army has a bunch of archers. Why? Because we put them on the walls to take advantage of the wall advantage. Secondly, we have frontline troops or melee soldiers. Melee soldiers that can be bought here, like axemen and swordsmen and other swordsmen that can be bought in this city. There is no reason to take troops from place to place. You want troops you can recruit here locally and replenish locally without dragging armies across the map. Here we have a second defensive army. This one is taking a bit more of a beating. However, it is going to replenish itself with troops it has. If it had troops before that it did not create here, when they die they will be replaced with troops that we can create here. Here we have also one additional change. We have here spearmen and archers, but we also have an artillery unit, a catapult. The reason we have this catapult here and not in the aggressive armies is that it is very non-maneuverable. That is to say, it is very slow and not dynamic. It slows the entire army down. However, if we place it near doors or gates, it can just fire at the people moving through a very small concentrated area, and we don't need to move it around. As we move to the next fortress, we have the same idea. Units that can be bought there. Here we have more defensive armies. In any place that we have defensive armies, we have more or less, in my case, 6 archers. We have a bunch of spearmen, maybe an artillery unit, and that is how we fight a defensive war, because we're not looking to move out and conquer, at least not in this front. Here we have our first mercenary army. Mercenary army is built of whatever units you can recruit, because you are on the move and you want to move from one battle to the other very, very quickly. That is to say, you replenish your army with whatever is within range. It is never a well-built army to the max. It has some medium level power because it is never balanced. It is never balanced because you lose whatever troops you lose and you replace them with whatever you have. You're not going to have any kind of long-term mercenary army that has the same kind of troops and the same kind of balance over time. Often, frontline troops are replaced with backline troops. For example, the spearmen die in melee combat, but the archers remain. So when you recruit more units, you end up with too many archers. Beware, this happens from time to time. This does, however, allow you to build up momentum. After crushing one army, you replace your dead troops with more troops, whatever comes to hand. Sometimes from your cities, often mercenaries. And after the first battle, where you crush the enemy on the field, you then can proceed to besiege the city. You can continue forward with your campaign. Here we have another army preparing for the attack. However, it is built differently. It is built differently because we bought whatever came to hand. We took some units from cities, like some cavalry units. We took 2 swordman units. However, at the end of the day, we bought whatever we could buy. And now it's going to descend on a city all at once, very, very quickly. That is the point. Here we have something a bit odd, a defensive army on the attack. However, it is not alone. It is first of all holding a bridge where if attacked it will hold a defensive battle. However, it is also backed by this attack army. I like to call them sledgehammers or jackhammers because they're supposed to break through concrete. They are big, bad, and strong. They have 4 cavalry units because whatever we destroy on the field, we want to prevent them from fleeing. We want all the troops to be caught or the problematic troops to be caught because whatever escapes this field battle is going to be in our next siege battle. We want the victory to be big and strong and hard, and we don't want the enemy to be able to recover. There are a few problems with this army, with this type of army. It is very expensive. That is to say, quality costs money. Secondly, it is hard to repair. Again, quality costs money, and not every city can repair them. Next, this army is going to be thrown into hard situations, so you're going to see them needing a lot of maintenance. However, the advantage is that this kind of army can often handle twice or 3 times the amount of men that it has, and not only win decisively, kill more men than it has, sometimes twice the amount of men it has, and that is without counting the people that escaped. This type of army is to be feared. However, it is not undefeatable, but it is very, very strong. And that costs money, but that wins wars, or breaks through problematic areas. This is always going to be an attack army. Many of you are therefore asking, what ways can we improve modern warfare? How do we orientate an army for attack or for defense? Let's start with defense. As you all know, fortresses are dead. None of them can resist enough firepower. However, they have been replaced with 2 things: lots of small fortifications and pre-built infrastructure. As for pre-built infrastructure, let's discuss a few good ideas. One is barracks, not just tents to sleep in, but rather places with beds, air conditioning or heating, food, and everything else a soldier needs to live. Ammo lockers. We would like to store ammo before warfare and have it ready for the soldiers to use in real time. Ports, rails, and airports. These are pre-built infrastructures that help you improve your logistical lines. Also, there's small fortifications. Small fortifications, for example, landmines, barbed wires, and of course, machine gun nests. All these things can be destroyed with enough firepower. However, it's going to be very inconvenient for an army to keep on cutting barbed wire, to keep on removing landmines, and to dodge and move around and dance around the machine gun nests. 2 additional features for defense are that you have short logistical lines and that you start the battle holding the key position, some kind of good position like a hill that allows you to target the enemy as they engage you, rather than you having to move on open ground as the enemy fires on you. This is very, very crucial because in advance you have prepared yourself to be attacked, and it will cost the enemy dearly. 2 signs to look for if you suspect an army of being a defense army are static air defense systems. Air defense systems are significantly problematic and big, and making them mobile is very, very hard. You can, but this lowers quality. If you can have a static air defense system, it will probably be better than a mobile one. However, your army can't advance without air defenses and air support. If you have static air defenses, you may be looking at an army built for defense. Also, a defending army would want to keep its air bases and logistical bases a bit back. Why? Because the battlefield is not going to be moving forward, and you would like to keep them a bit back so they're not directly in artillery range. What then are we looking for with an attack army? The first key sign is mobile attack vehicles. Any kind of vehicle with guns or with the ability to shoot out of. Tanks, attack vehicles, uh, anything that can drive and shoot. To be clear, we don't know what vehicles will be in the future, but you want to have your guns move forward and shoot. Another thing to look for is paratroopers. Paratroopers are thrown at the enemy behind the enemy lines to take over key positions and key things like bridges and whatever can be destroyed or be removed in order to stop the attack. Also, you should look for two types of ships. One is an amphibious assault ship. You do not need an amphibious assault ship for defense because your troops are already on the battlefield. Also, aircraft carriers. Aircraft carriers allow you to take your air force very, very far away from the homeland, from wherever it is you have regular air bases on the ground. Another type of unit to look for are corps of engineers. They will create easy bridges. They will improve your logistical lines over tough terrain that you have not had the chance to already build infrastructure in advance. There is no reason for a makeshift bridge if I can just build a very good bridge 10 years in advance because I hold the ground. In order to improve logistics, you will see a lot of dynamic logistic capacities. That is to say, instead of trains, you will see a lot of trucks, because trucks can drive anywhere. Trains need tracks to be built in advance. So, invading an area without pre-built tracks is going to be very problematic if your logistics are dependent on trains. As mentioned before, you're also going to need mobile surface-to-air missiles or some kind of air defense capacity. Because as your troops move into a new area, you're going to need to give them air support and anti-air support. This means that any kind of static air defense is just not going to cut it. Finally, the last type of troop you're going to need are gendarmerie and occupation forces. Think of these as militarized police that will institute law and order after you've taken over the area. Why do you need these? You need these because unless you intend of moving out everyone in there, you are going to need to clamp down on any kind of revolutionaries, any people who think that the battle should be undone. There are plenty of types of peacekeeping forces or occupation forces. However, you're going to need to keep the rebels under wraps. The last thing I want to share with you are a few imminent signs of an attack. The first is the enemy moving their air bases towards the border. This is a very, very dangerous move because air bases are a strategic type of base. If I can destroy your air force, you're in trouble. However, if you want to attack and invade land that you're not holding, you want to shorten the flight time of any airplane so that they can engage faster. If you expect the battlefield to be moving into new territory, you want the airplanes to be closer to this new front line. For the same reason, you will want to move your logistical bases forward. Logistical bases with ammunition and whatever it is you're storing need to be close to the front line, but not too close. You do not want them in artillery range. However, you do not want long logistical lines between them and your troops. For this reason, if you expect the front to be moving forward, you will move the bases forward in order to help the attack and to keep logistical lines short. Finally, there are two things that are advised to do that are the opposite of fortification, and you need to do them before an attack. That is, cutting barbed wires and removing mines. The reason is that war is chaos, and just because you attack through one route does not mean you'll be retreating or uh, conducting some kind of tactical retreat during the same route. You could be moving all over the place. That is why you need to remove all mines and remove the barbed wire. Anything that can be used to defend can be a source of problems when you return, if you return, if for any reason you have to commit strategic defense. With all these signs, you can now look at your local army. I don't know where you live, however, think about it for a moment. What kind of troops do you know the army is preparing? Does it sound like an attack army or like a defense army? What do you think that means about your country's intentions? In which direction does it seem that they're going? Good luck with your predictions. If you like this video, please comment, upvote, and subscribe. If you want to help further, go and watch my other videos. And if you like them as well, do the same over there. Also, please share this video and any other video you might think people might take interest in. If you want to support me further, you can buy my book on Amazon, Ancapistan by Noah Goodman. Thank you for watching, and good night.